This is the Micklegate in York. The barbaric medieval custom of mounting heads of executed prisoners on spikes as a warning played out here. Now, they stopped that gruesome display centuries ago, but they revived the custom for an Irishman and a Scotsman in 1746. If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen. And if you enjoy this video, then give it a thumbs up, share it, and watch the next one. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. I'm making a series of videos about the surprising number of times that York was a turning point in Scottish history. Today, I'm going to tell you about brutal justice, a secret marriage, a narrow escape, courageous humanity, and probably the most famous Jacobite execution where until today, you probably didn't even know the victim's name. So who were these people? Where did they come from? And how did they end up here in York? In Derby, on the 5th of December 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie and his clan chiefs decided to turn back north. That fateful decision led some to Culloden, but it led others here to York. By mid-December, retreating Jacobites had almost reached Penrith, where the vanguard of Cumberland's forces came into contact with the Jacobite rear. 11 Jacobites were captured in a skirmish at Lowther Hall, including an English volunteer called Edmund Clavering. We'll be coming back to him. A bigger battle, a couple of miles north at Clifton Moor, is described as the last battle on English soil. Jacobite success there was tempered with more captures. 69 Jacobite prisoners were taken. 8 female camp followers, including Elizabeth Grant, was amongst them. This seamstress from Banff is someone else we'll come back to. She and other captives faced a 100-mile walk through December snow. When they arrived on New Year's Eve, the Archbishop of York described them as barefooted and raggedy clothed. Carlisle had fallen the day before, and more captives would be arriving in the new year. The Jacobite garrison captured at Carlisle Castle were largely made up of the Manchester Jacobite regiment, although amongst them was a piper, James Reid. Ironically, the fall of Carlisle gave us one of Scotland's best loved songs, By yon bonny banks and by yon bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond. If you don't know the story, then let me know in the comment section and we might cover it another time. Another 380 Jacobites were taken and 193 of them were sent here to York. They faced an even longer trek through a bitter winter. The survivors described suffering exposure and starvation rations. And by early February, York prisons, already bulging with local criminals and debtors, had to find space for this massive influx of Jacobite captives. The recently built county debtors prison was used for high status prisoners, and the 8 women taken at Clifton Moor were also held there separately in a single cell. Most rank and file male prisoners were packed into older parts of York Castle. When the Carlisle captives arrived, they were held in the ground floor of the Grand Jury building, today's York Crown Court, over there. By February 1746, 251 Jacobite prisoners were crammed into York Castle's buildings with sparse rations in filthy, cold, draughty cells where disease was only surpassed by despair. But some tried to clutch a little bit of hope in that despair. Elizabeth Grant, the seamstress from Banff, captured at Clifton, and Edmund Clavering, the combatant from Northumberland, captured at Lowther Hall, found solace in each other. I don't know how they did it, given the arrangements, but somehow they fell in love, and they decided that they wanted to get married. But this was against the regulations. Prisoners weren't supposed to fraternise, let alone marry. Fortunately, one of the other captives was a Catholic priest named Father Rivet, who married them in a secret ceremony behind bars in York Castle. He claimed later it was to prevent sin. I'll be honest, I'd have thought the cramped conditions and number of witnesses would have done that. But it was all highly irregular and against the rules. Oh, when the jailers found out, they were furious. A wedding underneath their noses was bad enough, but a Catholic wedding was worse. And a Scots woman marrying an Englishman. Oh, Catholic interracial marriages. It was an abomination. To be fair, he was from Northumbria, and I suppose Geordies are kind of mixed race anyway. At least they found some hope amongst the despair. But hope and despair are two sides of the same coin. And they were about to find out about the coin toss to come. I won't lie, this is about to get depressing. So before we go on to that, let me tell you about another trip I'll be making. Would you like to hear how Scotland was born and the beauty of the places that made us? In April 2027, I'll be taking a small group on a Birth of Scotland tour to do just that. I'll be telling stories from the first Viking attack to a ceremony at the sacred hill of Scone just over 100 years later. We'll climb Didnt, the home of the Scots. We'll take a ferry to Iona, where Columba built the church. We'll travel to Dunkeld, where Columba's relics were taken for safety. We'll stand on Moot Hill at Scone, where Scotland was formed. We'll drink whiskey and listen to music. We'll enjoy great hotels. This will be a magical 7-day journey to the key places in the birth of Scotland, to understand its history, to see its beauty, and to feel the passion of Scotland in the places that mattered as it grew. For information, click the link or email alexis@scotlandhistorytours.co.uk. The British government wanted to make an example of the captives. They would be charged with high treason. But the numbers made that a logistical nightmare. Evidence would be needed. Some charges would have to be dropped to get people to turn King's evidence. Who to prosecute, who to use as witnesses, and who could be released and pardoned. 6 months later, there were still 109 Jacobite prisoners here in York. Some were chosen for trial. The lower level participants identified as witnesses. Those that were left had to draw lots to decide which of them would go to trial. How would you feel drawing a lottery for your life? These are 2 Monopoly cards from a set. One is a get out of jail free card. The other is go to jail. If I mix them up, which one would you choose? One means you go free. The other takes you to trial and pretty much certain conviction for high treason. They'll drag you through these streets on wooden trellis. People will be shouting, throwing things at you, spitting at you. You'll be taken up to the scaffold, hands bound. I had thought to take you through the whole process, but I'm not sure the YouTube algorithm would be happy with those gory details. But you know what it means to be hung, drawn and quartered. So pick a card. No, choose. Is it the left one or the right one? Have you chosen? Shall I show you? Did you choose this one or this one? How do you feel? Let me know in the comment section. I've tried to give you some sense of it, But we can never truly understand what it was like for the 75 Jacobite prisoners who were finally scheduled for trial. It was early October by the time the Special Commission convened. Individual hearings would be long and drawn out. Better to do them in batches. Would it surprise you to know that of the 75, 53 decided to plead guilty outright? That meant an automatic death sentence. But they must have hoped that by throwing themselves in the King's mercy, they might receive some. The other 22 prisoners went to trial. 5 were acquitted for whatever reason. The other 17, guilty, adding to the ranks of the condemned. So 70 Jacobite prisoners received death sentences, far more than the authorities actually wanted to execute. Too much blood might give the wrong impression. Just enough was needed. Some would be excused the worst punishment. Do you like our games of chance? Steve Picker's Lotting and York Castle and the 1745 Jacobite Rebellion tells us 70 were sentenced to death by hanging, drawing and quartering. At the last moment, a reprieve came for most, although they had to draw lots. If you're unlucky, the gallows. A lucky reprieve would mean transportation or enlistment in the British Army. As a female camp follower, Elizabeth Grant, our Banff seamstress, would be transported to the West Indies. Her new husband, Edmund Clavering, we'll come back to him. The 22 prisoners who drew death lots faced execution, scheduled for early November 1746, just in time for Guy Fawkes Day, so as to emphasise the grim consequences of resisting the state. On the 1st of November 1746, the first batch of condemned were led out from York Castle. York's traditional execution ground was the Knavesmire outside the city walls. Knavesmire, the bog of the Knaves, lay along the Tadcaster Road near York Racecourse today. They were tied onto wooden sledges and dragged behind horses from the castle through Castlegate and Micklegate out to the Knavesmire. There, they were confronted by a large three-legged gallows designed for multiple hangings at once. 10 prisoners were executed that first day in front of a huge crowd. Among them was Sir George Hamilton of Redhouse, one of Charles Stuart's aides-de-camp. They were hanged until nearly dead, then cut down, still alive, disemboweled and quartered, before the executioner, displaying each man's heart to the crowd, declared, "There dies the heart of a traitor," the full punishment for treason. 3 of the 10 executed on November the 1st had their heads cut off to be used for display. Sir George Hamilton's was put in a box and sent north to Carlisle. 2 other heads were set aside for display here in York. James Main, a Scottish Catholic, was a sergeant in Grant's regiment. William Connolly, and just to challenge the preconceptions of those who think football first and history second, was an Irish-born Protestant who deserted the British Army to join the Jacobite cause. The executions continued a week later. 11 Jacobite prisoners were hanged and brutally drawn and quartered on 8th of November. To continue challenging perceptions, at least one of them was an English Jacobite, the recently married Edmund Clavering, who had wed a Scottish lass behind bars. He had drawn a short straw. His young bride Elizabeth, now a widow, could only mourn from her cell. Another one of those dragged through the streets here on the 8th of November 1746 was John Gillan. As he was being dragged on the hurdle along Castlegate towards the gallows, somebody on horseback approached the men dragging him. As they pulled up the horses, the messenger handed over a piece of paper. They read it. Nobody expected this. Could it be true? A last-minute reprieve, saving him from death at the 11th hour. The crowd watched him taken off the sledge, and he saw his comrades suffer the same fate intended for him. Another week passed. Finally, on the 15th of November, only one more grim execution was left. James Reid, that bagpiper captured at Carlisle Castle. At trial, he argued that he had not carried arms against the king, so he wasn't an enemy combatant, just a musician. The court was unswayed. The judges infamously ruled that no regiment ever marched without musical instruments, and a Highland regiment never marched without a piper. Therefore, his bagpipe was an instrument of war. Deemed as guilty of bearing arms as any swordsman, he was condemned to be hanged, then butchered on the 15th of November 1746. After the previous week's last-minute reprieve, he must have anticipated clemency all the way to the gallows. If he did, it didn't come. The sight of this man, executed for the crime of playing bagpipes, left a bitter impression even here in York. The barbarity appalled many citizens, and the story of a bagpiper executed in that post-Culloden Retribution for the crime of playing the pipes is a story that I've heard folk relate with vague references many times in the past. But now you know where it was and when. And you know the name of James Reid. This is the Micklegate in York. The barbaric medieval custom of mounting heads of executed prisoners on spikes as a warning played out here. They stopped that gruesome display centuries ago, but they revived the custom for an Irishman and a Scotsman in 1746. Richard, Duke of York's head was displayed in 1460. In 1746, it was the heads of James Mayne and William Connolly, parboiled in tar to prevent decomposition and impaled on iron spikes. So any traveller entering York from the London road would be welcomed by a warning. These were the last heads ever mounted in the Micklegate Bar, a gruesome display weathered and blackened, but identifiable right up until 1754, when, in the dead of night, on January the 28th, a local tailor and Jacobite sympathiser called William Arundel climbed Micklegate Bar, risking state retribution to honour these men by removing their heads from public display. Unfortunately, he was later caught, and for this act, Arundel was heavily fined and imprisoned in York's Ouse Bridge jail. But he refused to give up the location of the last remains of James Mayne and William Connolly. The city authorities offered a large reward for the return of the heads, but they were never recovered. These are the stories of just some of the Jacobite prisoners taken on the march north from Derby. Over the years, I've heard snippets of their stories told in bars and on guided tours, altered through the filter of partisan passion, victorious condescension, or just to miss the time. I've tried to add some detail to current day folklore, but these events are just one more way that Scotland was made in York. After the bloodbath in November 1746, most of the lucky ones were sentenced to transportation overseas. By early 1747, the government had begun sending Jacobite prisoners from various jails to port cities like Liverpool to be shipped to the colonies. In March 1747, 49 prisoners from here in York Castle, including the widow Elizabeth Grant, were marched to Liverpool for transportation. On the 8th of May 1747, they were loaded on the transport ship Veteran, bound for Antigua, and years of indentured labour. What happened to that ship is a story in itself. And it's a story that I'll tell as an extra on the Patreon page. If you'd like to hear more stories about how Scotland was made in York, then there's one coming up on screen now. If you enjoyed this video, then like it, share it, and watch the next one. Support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member, or buy me a coffee in the description below. In the meantime, I'm in Dawkins can be a lamb alive. Sherry and Rast.